Live from the University of North Texas.
This is the NTTV Your Choice 2026 Primary Election Show.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us on a very special night, the North Texas Television Your Choice 2026 Primary Election Show. I'm Aaron Erie.
And I'm Maddie Holston. Tonight, Texas voters are choosing the candidates who will be on the ballot in November's general election.
This is one of the first primaries in the country in 2026, and we are covering several high-profile races, including contests for U.S. Senate Governor and Senate Attorney General.
This primary election is one of the most crucial in the nation. Texas made national headlines for redistricting their counties to favor Republicans. This election could reshape the national election in November 2028. We have live team coverage across North Texas tonight, including reporters staking out campaign watch parties, but we'll check in with them in just a moment.
But first, let's take a look at why we're here tonight. Primaries are a crucial step in our democracy, but this is not the final step in the voting process. Each political party holds its own separate primary election. This gives voters the chance to pick candidates for each office, from U.S. Senate to statewide offices like governor, as well as seats in the state legislature. The primary stays within the party, so tonight it's only Republicans facing other Republicans and only Democrats against fellow Democrats. Candidates who win their primaries tonight will then advance to the general election in November, when voters will pick between the two parties.
Texas is just one of the first 3 states in the country to hold primaries in 2026, so the eyes of the nation are on the Lone Star State this evening. NTTV is live at campaign watch parties and polling locations in our area. We begin our coverage tonight with Cameron Shields, who's live at a watch party for Republican Senate candidate Ken Paxton. But before we go to Cameron, there's a developing story. Tonight, Dallas police took in a man to custody outside the Marriott Hotel, where Ken Paxton's primary watch party is being held. Police removed what appeared to be several firearm magazines from the car and secured them. The man is currently in the police vehicle. Cameron, what are you seeing out there?
Police confiscated a lot of... Thanks so much, Maddie. That's right. A man was taken into custody right outside this Marriott after police found multiple different ammunitions and magazines in his car. On another note, there's a lot of anticipation in this room as we prepare for our watch party. Special guest Texas Attorney General and Senate Republican primary candidate Ken Paxton is here with us tonight, and I believe I speak for all the reporters and spectators in this room when I say we can't wait to see the results. I'm going to send it over to Zaria Holman, who is live with Jasmine Crockett's campaign watch party, our Democratic candidate. Zaria, what you got?
Thanks, Cam. That's right, the excitement is high because I am here at Club Vivo where Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's watch party is being held. Now the people are loading in and the energy is only going up. And we are waiting for this voter deliberation to finally be completed, but that will be taking a little bit more time because there was now been released a court order for voter hours to be extended. That's right, our voter hours have been extended from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. So go in there and lock it down and I'll be here when you get back. Now let's head over to our colleague Evanson Franklove, who's live in the McKinney area Democrats in Collin County. Back to you, Evanson.
Thanks, Zaria. I'm here in McKinney at the Goats Arena Sports Bar where the Democratic Watch Party is happening, and the atmosphere is amazing. I mean, everybody here is excited to see what the results are going to be by the end of the night. I had my own section for a little bit. It was the first time that I had a section, and I get to enjoy that with the Democrats here in the McKinney area. Well, that's all I have for you right now. Let's head over to Melanie Garcia, who's with the Denton County Democrats, and see what she has for us. Melanie?
Yeah, Evanson, just like the rest of the Republican parties tonight, the primary parties tonight, this one looks like it's having a blast. We've got a lot of people calmed down right now, but the party is starting very soon. And for the Flower Mound Democrats, it seems like they're waiting for these results right away. That's all I have right now. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Melanie. Well, we talked about what a primary election is for its purpose in the American political system, but many voters don't see how important primaries are. Turnout is usually low, and key candidate decisions are made by only a very few people. However, this primary may be different. For more on that, plus the history of primaries, let's go to NTTV's Edison Stewart. Edison?
Thanks, Aaron. Before primary elections, political parties chose their candidates in caucuses and conventions, often behind closed doors. This system worked for America's first two elections, when George Washington was the unanimous choice for president. But it quickly fell apart after he left office and political parties began to form. After the chaotic election of 1800, Congress adopted the 12th Amendment, separating presidential and vice presidential votes. But even with that, party leaders continued to control nominations for more than a century. During the progressive era of the early 1900s, states began introducing direct primaries, giving voters more power. That shift became clear in 1952 when President Harry Truman lost a key primary and withdrew from the race. Following the 1968 election, both major parties reformed their rules, making primaries the primary path to securing a nomination. That's what the candidates in tonight's races are trying to do, and we'll be following them throughout the evening. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Edison. In every election, both on the national and state level, there are a few key counties that in some ways predict how the state will go. Tonight, NTTV's Alexandria Teeters and Julianne Wen will be working that beat. Alexandria, Julianne, what can you tell us?
Maddie, there are only a handful of counties at the national level that experts use to predict how the nation as a whole might go. None of those are in Texas.
However, during primaries, things are a bit different as they determine who will be on the ballot in November.
We will be looking at the 7 largest counties in the Lone Star State tonight. Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, and Collin counties here in North Texas, Bexar County, home to San Antonio, Travis County, where Austin is located, and Harris County, anchored by Houston.
With only early voting numbers in, this is what Denton County looks like. As you can see, we have a pie chart showing that we have 60,764 votes for Republican, and a little bit under that we have Democrat at 57,000. So it's pretty much up to the rest of the night to see how this is going to go, but as of right now, we can't really give you many answers.
And that is how we will break down these votes on these key counties throughout the evening. Maddie and Aaron, back to you two at the desk.
Thanks, Alexandria and Julianne. Now, while the Texas Senate race has become the #1 race to watch in the nation, there are other key races that we will be following. For that, let's go to NTTV Political Pulse reporter George Svoboda in the newsroom. George.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm up in the newsroom with a team of researchers, and we're going to be keeping track of several key congressional races across the state. First up is Texas House 23. District 23 spans from San Antonio to El Paso, and we're seeing a heavily contested GOP primary between incumbent Tony Gonzalez and his biggest challenger, Brandon Herrera. Gonzalez's campaign is stewed in controversy as he's been accused of having an affair with a staffer who recently died by suicide. Herrera, a former YouTuber, lost against Gonzalez in 2024 by just 400 votes. He's run as a tougher Republican than Gonzalez. In Texas House District 33, which covers mostly Dallas and Tarrant County, Democratic candidate Colin Allred is contesting incumbent Representative Julie Johnson. This was Allred's congressional district before he lost his Senate race against Ted Cruz in 2024. Allred had been running for Senate again, but dropped out when Congresswoman Crockett announced her bid. Both candidates have endorsed each other. So far, there is no GOP frontrunner in Texas House District 33. In Texas House District 30, which is mostly comprised of Dallas County, this was Congresswoman Crockett's former district before her bid for Senate. She dropped out of the race after Republican-led remapping. The leading Democratic candidate in this district is Crockett's pastor, Frederick Haynes III. Crockett endorsed Haynes in January. So far, there is not a Republican frontrunner in the race. We'll also be keeping an eye on contested Senate primaries in Texas and North Carolina, both of which could show a change in the balance of power nationwide. The Democratic frontrunner in North Carolina is former Governor Roy Cooper, and experts suspect Trump-endorsed Michael Whatley will win the GOP primary. We're going to be keeping an eye on these races as the night progresses. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, George. And one last element in tonight's coverage, expert analysis. Senior reporter Annie Tomlin is in Studio A. Annie?
Maddie, tonight I am joined by Dr. Kimmy King, political science professor, both a lawyer and professor with a focus on U.S. politics and international law and political environments. Joining her tonight is Mr. Mark Mosley, lecturer and television news media veteran with a focus on demographics, issues facing Texas residents, and media impact. We'll be talking with them later on in the broadcast about both the numbers and issues, but for now, let's go back to Studio B.
Thanks, Annie. When we come back, our first look at numbers.
And the race that is making waves across the United States, that's the U.S. Senate race, with the incumbent facing two strong challengers. Stay with us as our coverage of Your Choice 2026 continues.
Do you like scary movies? What's your favorite scary movie?
Isn't this cat so lovely? Let's take a look at this cute kitty cat take on the world.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Cynthia Mendoza for NCTV Nightly News.
And I'm Zach White. Be sure to tune in next week at noon and 6 p.m. respectively. Cynthia, you got any pets waiting for you at home?
Oh yes, I actually have a fish tank that I take care of.
Do you like scary movies? What's your favorite scary movie?
Isn't this cat so lovely? Let's take a look at this cute kitty cat take on the world.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Cynthia Mendoza for NCTV Nightly News.
And I'm Zach White. Be sure to tune in next week at noon and 6 p.m. respectively. Cynthia, you got any pets waiting for you at home?
Oh yes, I actually have a fish tank that I take care of.
We're NTTV's longest running Spanish entertainment show, and we're all about culture, creativity, and community in Spanish. Vámonos.
Hey you! Yeah, you. Tax day is right around the corner, and the IRS has free resources to help you. Just visit their website or contact our volunteer income tax program at 800-906-9887. You don't want the IRS knocking at your door. Whew, I guess it's too late for you. Pay now or pay later with interest. File your taxes.
Welcome back to Your Choice 2026. We start with what's being called the hottest race in the country right now.
The Republican primary for U.S. Senate has been a contentious race between different fractions of the party. Incumbent John Cornyn has held the seat since 2002. He positioned himself as a strong ally of the Trump administration by supporting the president's tax cuts and increased border security funding. But polls show Cornyn trailing Ken Paxton, the state attorney general.
Paxton has served in that role since 2015. He gained national attention by suing the Biden administration more than 100 times. Paxton has marked himself to the right of Cornyn politically and promises to be an even stronger ally of the president.
Houston Congressman Wesley Hunt is also running in this primary. He's an Iraq War veteran who served 2 terms in the U.S. House. Hunt is positioning himself as the alternative choice. At 44, he is by far the youngest candidate, showcasing that as a contemporary political plus. He is the only black candidate in the Republican Senate primary and also calls himself a close ally of President Trump.
Now, as the polls close across Texas, let's take a look at the numbers we have. Let's start with the biggest one of the races of the night, the Republican primary.
Incumbent Senator John Cornyn has roughly about a little bit more. Cornyn is leading right now. He has just over a third of those votes that have been tallied, and the state attorney general Ken Paxton is at 156,943. Wesley Hunt has 52,513, and that's where this race is sitting currently. The race has been heated, and at times it has gotten personal. NTTV's Cameron Shields is live at Ken Paxton's watch party in Dallas with a closer look at the GOP Senate race. Cam?
Thanks, Maddie. It's been a long, hard battle for Republican candidates this primary. While 2 of them are garnering most of the votes and 1 of them has a chance to take Republicans into the runoff. I spoke with one of those candidates, and here's more information about that race in particular. John Cornyn, Ken Paxton, and Wesley Hunt. These are the 3 contenders in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate in Texas. It's been a hard-fought battle throughout the campaign, and the competition likely won't end with tonight's primary. Cornyn, the incumbent, has held this seat since 2002. Despite his conservative credentials, he's considered the more traditional option in this primary.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn, for working with President Trump.
And for making Texas great again.
John Cornyn votes with President Trump 99% of the time.
Paxton has served as state attorney general since 2015 and is challenging Cornyn from the right.
John Cornyn doesn't share our values. It's time for a change. Ken Paxton is the conservative fighter they couldn't cancel.
Paxton has survived criminal charges and an impeachment trial, which have some GOP voters hesitant to support him.
The lawyer crooked Ken Paxton used to protect himself during impeachment is the same lawyer defending the radical Islamic Epic City project.
Hunt has represented parts of the Houston area in the U.S. House since 2023. The 44-year-old is pitching himself as a newer option for voters looking for an alternative to Paxton and Cornyn.
This is key that we keep Texas in order for us to keep the majority in the Senate. And that's why I believe that I'm the best candidate to run that can win the general election, win the primary election. It won't cost the party or us a ton of money. And I'm already outperforming both of my colleagues, both Ken and John, in the general election against Jasmine Crockett or James Tallarico, whoever ends up coming out of their primary. So it is critical on a national scale that we keep Texas red.
All 3 of them have been hoping to get President Trump's endorsement, which could convince a large number of undecided voters. However, the president says he's having trouble choosing because he likes all 3.
He's a good man. John is I like all 3 of them, actually. I like all 3. Those are the toughest races. They've all supported me. They're all good, and you're supposed to pick one. So we'll see what happens, but I support all 3.
And after Trump's highly anticipated visit to Corpus Christi, all 3 are still left unendorsed.
I like John. You have an excellent attorney general. You have an excellent senator. You have an excellent congressman. You have 3 excellent people. So I probably will. Maybe I'll wait to see what happens in the primary before I do anything because you still.
For NTTV Nightly News, I'm Cameron Shields. That's all I have right now. Aaron, what else should we be paying attention to?
Thanks, Cameron. Well, as you just heard, tonight may not be the end of the primary campaign in this Senate race. That's because election rules here in Texas state that a candidate must get at least 50% of the vote to win a primary outright. Since there are 3 high-profile candidates all fighting for the same Republican votes, that may not happen. If this does happen, the top 2 vote getters in tonight's primary would advance to a runoff election. That would be held May 26th, nearly 3 months from now. Voters who cast their ballots in the Republican primary can come back to the polls to vote in the runoff. Anyone who voted in the Democratic Party is not eligible to vote in a Republican runoff. One of the main reasons that a runoff is likely is the 3rd and youngest candidate in the Republican race. NTTV's Evanson Franklove is live in Collin County, which is typically a Republican stronghold, but an area where Democrats have a lot of enthusiasm tonight. Evanson?
That's right, Aaron. I am live with the McKinney area Democrats, and for years, Republicans have dominated here in the Collin County. While Democrats are optimistic, I got a chance to speak with the youngest candidate in the Republican Senate race as to why he thinks his party can hold on to that seat.
Republican Congressman Wesley Hunt hosted his campaign event last Wednesday at the Robeson Ranch Clubhouse in Denton. Throughout the event, Hunt emphasized that he is ready to rein in the new generation of American leaders.
The children and great-grandchildren of the state of Texas. That's what I get up. That's all I think about. Who is going to lead them for the future and who is in their prime? I'm somebody that's in my 40s. In the same vein as our vice president, who's 41 years old. Same vein as our Secretary of State, who's in his early 50s. Secretary of War in his mid-50s. Tulsi Gabbard, mid-40s. This is time for the millennial generation to step up and be the bridge from the older generation to the next generation. It's critical that we do that, because if we don't pass on these values, then we're going to lose this great country.
Hunt is running against incumbent Senator John Cornyn and Attorney General Ken Paxton. At 44, Hunt is the youngest Republican candidate, and he's pitching himself as an alternative to Cornyn and Paxton, who have both spent decades in elected office.
Thing to win a primary, it's another thing to win a general election.
This Republican primary is very important in the U.S. this year, as it could determine which party controls the Senate in 2027. For NTTV News, I'm Evanson Franklove.
Father, use him to destroy.
It's been a while since a Democrat running in a statewide race has held Collin County, but this party has been steadily cutting into Republican control as this area rapidly grows. And you can see the Democrats are excited for a change to happen here in Collin County. They're very excited to see as to what happens. We don't know. We'll see once the numbers come up, but it would be a great thing for Democrats if that would change here in Collin County. That's all I have for you. And as the night goes on, I will keep you guys updated as to the nightlife and atmosphere here at Goats Arena Sports Bar for the Democratic Watch Party. That's all I have. I'm sending it back to you, Maddie, at the desk.
Thanks, Evanson. All 3 Republican Senate candidates are hoping to rack up the votes in the biggest counties in Texas. For a closer look at where those votes might be, let's check in with NTTV's Alexandria Teeters and Julian Wen, who are watching our biggest counties. Guys, what can you tell us?
Maddie, let's start with the counties that the Republicans call home. Ken Paxton is from Collin County, while Wesley Hunt and John Cornyn are both from Harris. First, the GOP split in Collin County. Now in Harris County,
Hunt has been their congressman for two full terms. John Cornyn has spent the last 23 years in Washington as a senior senator from Texas. This is what the early numbers show.
In just a few minutes, we will take a look at the breakout in the home counties of the Democratic candidates, James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett.
All right, remember these are very early results, and with these 3 strong candidates, the vote could swing anyway. But for now, back to you two, Aaron and Maddie.
Thanks, you two. As those numbers are coming into us live, let's go to our panel of political and media experts to talk more about what the results could mean.
NTTV's Annie Tomlin is with Dr. Kimmy King and Mr. Mark Mosley in our second studio. Annie?
Thanks, guys. Let's begin with the fact that we have 3 strong candidates in this primary. Dr. King, how do you think that this is playing with GOP voters?
I think it's been fascinating to watch the infighting inside the Republican Party. It has escalated as we have gone on. I think one thing you ought to watch for going forward in what will most likely be a runoff between the top 2 is the level of negative campaigning and how much it gets ramped up. That's just so common when you have these kind of open spaces where you're potentially seeing a realignment inside a party.
And Mark, from your perspective, how do you think the candidates have been positioning themselves in the media?
They've been basically advertising themselves in coordination with one person, that is President Trump. All three of those candidates, Cornyn, Paxton, and Hunt, have been desperate to get President Trump's endorsement, and it just never came. The president came out and said, I'm sorry, I like all three of these guys. As you heard, he just can't make a choice. And so you've heard from Senator Cornyn, hey, I've been in the Senate 20 plus years. I work with President Trump. You hear from Ken Paxton, I'm closest aligned with President Trump and MAGA. You've heard from Congressman Hunt, I've endorsed Trump before anybody else. And so without that endorsement, they've kind of been left to fight amongst themselves to prove to Republican voters, to prove to their base that they are most aligned with the president. And it's very interesting how we're seeing this play out in the early numbers. The numbers for Wesley Hunt are abysmal so far. I'm kind of shocked. We kind of thought he might be able to kind of play spoiler for one of the two candidates in this race, and so far it looks like that's just not happening. But we've got Cornyn and we've got Paxton likely headed to a runoff. They need to get above 50% tonight. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, and so we've got a runoff which is nearly 3 months from now. So we're going to have a lot more. Hoping probably for those two men that maybe President Trump will make up his mind between then. And of course, as Dr. King mentioned, that fighting is going to just keep going on. The ad wars will continue until the end of May.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. We'll be back later on in the broadcast. Now back to you guys, Maddie and Aaron.
Thanks, Annie. Still ahead, we'll be breaking down the Democratic Senate primary.
And we'll join watch parties across North Texas. Stay with us.
Are you looking for a fun club with travel opportunities? Dive into the UNT Swim Club. Practicing Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Pole Recreation Center. We accept members at any skill level. For more information, reach out to us at unt.swimclub on Instagram.
It's a jibber jabber. Yes, jibber jabber.
Jibber Jabber is a man on the street NT TV show for Instagram that's in its 7th season. With 2 hosts, 1 comfy chair, and a Would You Do Something bowl.
Pretty much the gist of our show is that we're going to be inviting UNT students, all of our lovely family over, and we're going to be talking to them. And when we run out of things to say, we're going to ask them,
would you do something?
I think we're ready to do something.
Yeah.
Fortnite son or Minecraft daughter?
She was the oldest woman to ever medal in the slalom run. So I believe she's now the youngest. Yes, the youngest and the oldest.
Prominent women's sports is right now, especially when women's hockey is one of the biggest growing sports in the world right now.
If somebody told you, kind of coming back to the past and telling your past self that this team would be 1 win away from making the college football playoff, how would you react knowing that you've covered this team for so long?
Let's talk a little bit about the strengths of this UNT basketball team. Like, what are we good at? When it comes to UNT, we've always been a slower paced team, and that has continued into the Daniel Robinson era.
And welcome to a very special edition of Prove It or Lose It. Matthew.
Can I have Silverstone? It's the only name that looks familiar.
Welcome back to Your Choice 2026. Lone Star Democrats are trying to do something they haven't done in nearly 40 years, win a U.S. Senate race in Texas. That push starts tonight with the highly contested Democratic primary between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and State Representative James Tallarico.
Tallarico is a former public school teacher and a Presbyterian minister who currently represents the 50th Texas State House District in Austin. He has made both his Christian faith and his progressive economic policies central to his campaign. He has done that by criticizing both economic inequality and the rise of Christian nationalism. Tallarico faces Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who represents parts of Dallas in the U.S. House. Crockett was first elected to Congress in 2022. She made a name for herself through the firebrand approach to public speaking in front of both crowds and during her congressional hearings. Let's take a look at the latest vote totals. Crockett has about 51.9% of the vote, and Tallarico has about 49. That's pretty much half and half, but we're still getting more numbers.
As we continue our coverage tonight, we're taking a closer look at the issues driving the Democratic primary campaign. NTTV's Katie Muncie has more on Congresswoman Crockett's platform.
As a warrior who's fighting back.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has quickly become one of the most recognized faces in Texas politics. Crockett served in the Texas House representing parts of the Dallas area. In 2023, she was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives and serves in Texas' 30th Congressional District. Before she was in elected office, Crockett was a civil rights attorney and public defender in East Texas. She fought for criminal justice reform, police accountability, and representation towards underrepresented communities, something she still stands for today.
I believe in we the people. I believe in Texas. That is why it is time to raise our voices. Come rain, sleet, hail, or snow, we've got to show up and show them who's boss. We've got to tell them.
In Congress, she has advocated for expanding healthcare access and protecting reproductive rights. She also strongly opposes cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. She has also prioritized making education more affordable by reducing college tuition, eliminating student loan debt, and increasing financial aid. Crockett has made a name for herself nationwide by strongly opposing President Trump and his Republican allies.
You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Crockett made a last-minute decision to jump into the U.S. Senate race after the Texas legislature redrew the congressional map and eliminated her Dallas area districts. Late last month, she made a stop at the University of North Texas to connect with young voters. Students flooded the room for a chance to hear from one of Texas's most recognized Democrats.
I was having a bad day, but Jasmine Crockett's here at UNT. Oh, I gotta be there, actually.
She's fighting a fight that I don't think that I could have done by myself, and to see her do it is very inspiring, and it really just shows me that it doesn't matter where you come from or what you look like, you can support and be the voice for people who are voiceless.
Crockett spoke about her journey as a law student, her time as a congresswoman, and took questions from students. She emphasized the importance of youth engagement, encouraging students to stay informed and vote in the primary.
I trust young people's voices, especially as I say that I'm fighting for their future. I can't fight for their future and then leave them out of the conversation.
Crockett's main challenger in the Democratic primary is State Representative James Tallarico. The winner of tonight's race will advance the general election in November.
Additionally, Crockett has received major endorsements in this race, with former Vice President Kamala Harris throwing in her support behind the Congresswoman.
Congresswoman Crockett is counting on the people who are most familiar with her to deliver a win tonight. NTTV's Zaria Hallman is live at the Crockett campaign's watch party in Dallas with the latest. Zaria, what's it looking like over there?
Thanks, Maddie. I'm still here at Club Vivo, and there's so much more that's going on that happened last. We've got drinks passed around, we've got snacks going up, and this DJ behind me needs to be on the short list for next upcoming events, far and wide. But I'm seeing more people. We're still waiting on Congresswoman Crockett to come out and make an appearance, but there's more to see and lots to hear. Nothing but smiles, laughs, and lots of people just having a good time. I'm so excited to see what else will happen throughout this night and what people will have to say. But for more on Crockett's main Democratic opponent, let's send it back to the studio and NTTV's reporter George Swoboda, who has a look at James Tallarico. George?
Thanks, Zaria. State Representative James Tallarico has spent this campaign running as a populist, change-making Democrat. I analyzed his campaign to see what appeals to voters and what his stances are on key issues. Representative James Tallarico launched his campaign just 6 months ago, shaking up the political landscape in Texas.
Going up against the establishment in both political parties.
Tallarico is a unique candidate. His political messaging of politics as a top-down struggle appeals to progressives across the state.
A handful of billionaires have redesigned our politics for their own profit. Us versus them.
Tallarico weaves progressive messaging and biblical teachings together.
Jesus could have told us to love our immediate family members. He could have told us to love our close friends. Those would have been easier commandments to follow. But he told us to love our neighbors. That's inherently a public thing. And that commandment is what led me to public service.
Tallarico portrays himself as a uniter in today's polarized political landscape. In 2018, he put a pause on his seminary education to run for the Texas House.
I was told flipping a Trump district was impossible. But my neighbors and I, we ran an aggressive, authentic, unorthodox campaign that brought people together. And on election night, we flipped that district with 51% of the vote.
One key aspect of his campaign is refusing corporate PAC money.
This is a campaign of, by, and for the people. We are not writing off any voter. We're not writing off any community.
Tallarico's grassroots, people-driven campaign garners him popular support.
They may have the money, but we have the majority.
He's taken strong stances on many critical topics, including ongoing ICE operations.
It is time to tear down this secret police force and replace it with an agency that is actually going to focus on public safety for all of us.
Tallarico supports universal health care as a right and has a record of signing progressive medical bills, including capping the price of insulin. And he criticized Democrats for supporting the ongoing war in Gaza during 2024's presidential election. Tallarico's message of unity and change is causing a stir in the GOP, which is showing concern that Tallarico will flip a Texas Senate seat blue for the first time in more than 30 years.
If you're someone who has voted for Democrats, but you're tired that DC Democrats keep folding, you're welcome. And if you voted for Donald Trump, but you are tired of the division and the extremism and the corruption in our government, you are also welcome in this campaign.
With Alex and Julianne, yep.
Both candidates represent two possible futures for the Democratic Party. Voters are deciding whether they want Crockett's strong resistance to Republican power or Tallarico's united front of change. Now let's check in with Julianne and Alexandria for Weatherford vote results.
All right, thanks, George. Right now, we're going to go ahead and look into, I believe it's, James Tallarico is from Bexar County in San Antonio, but he represents Austin in Travis County. Let's go ahead and take a look at that voting picture. All right, just taking a look at the numbers, it looks like we don't exactly have those numbers just quite yet, but we know that
in Travis County, about 9% of their registered voters did vote in the early voting week. So this result might not have much of a pull on the final results as we thought it might. And switching to the Crockett campaign, we still don't have the current numbers from Dallas County, but we do know that that is where she's from. She's done a lot to campaign in that area, so she's definitely hoping to secure that area.
And speaking of Dallas County, we just got news that Dallas County, instead of ending at 7 p.m., voting polls and centers have moved their ending time at 9 p.m. And to check where you're able to vote, visit DallasCountyVotes.org.
For the moment, that's how things are standing. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, ladies. In early voting, more ballots were cast in the Democratic primary than the Republican primary. That could signal a more favorable election forecast for Democrats in November. Dr. King, let's begin with you. What are your thoughts on this race and its impact?
I think the only vote count that's going to matter is come November. It is usually the case that when you have hot races like we see out of especially the Senate races, you see an energized turnout. You also have to remember that in terms of early voting, Democrats have long been the ones that have favored early voting and mail-in voting. You've seen some changes of that in the last 2 election cycles. Republicans have been more willing to turn out because of election integrity.
And Mr. Mosley?
Yeah, it's been interesting watching the two candidates' strategies, talking about Crockett and Tallarico. Crockett has really been focused on kind of the Democratic base here in the state, certainly trying to turn out black voters in the state. Tallarico has really done an interesting job when it comes to trying to reach out to different voters, maybe people who have chosen to sit out previous elections, maybe people who have chosen to vote for President Trump maybe as recently as 2024, and some of them may be having regrets. And we've kind of seen that. He's trying to kind of take advantage of some of the feelings that people have had reacting to the last year or so of the new Trump administration.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Another thing to think about is that we're going to be in midterms. It's always such an important issue because presidents always get hammered in the midterms, and so we were talking earlier about this concern of getting an endorsement from Trump, the amount of money that you spend, and whether or not there will have to be a runoff. And that's why this election, in some ways, is way more important for both the Republican and the Democratic Party to position themselves before the next presidential.
Yeah, we think about the last time we were kind of in this particular position was probably 2018, the first midterm of President Trump's first term, and the Democrats came as close as they've come in a very long time with Beto O'Rourke almost beating Ted Cruz. Didn't quite happen, so they're going to have to work a little harder this time if they want to have a different result.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. We'll be back later on in the broadcast again. Maddie, Aaron?
Thanks, Annie and panel. But there is another watch party underway, this one, the Denton Democrats. And for that, we sent NTTV's Melanie Garcia over to find out what they are thinking of this primary election. Melanie?
Yeah, Aaron, the energy here is just booming. As you can see, the elevated room is just going crazy. Everybody is having a really good time, and with these numbers coming in, everybody seems to be very happy and very proud with how things are going. I've spoken with a few of the Flower Mound Democrats, and they're saying they're feeling very hopeful and feeling overall overwhelmed, but very happy with what's going on right now. That's all I have. Back with you at the desk.
Up next, a closer look into what redistricting really means and how it affects us here in Denton County.
And a look at some of the other top races in the state, ones that could have been an impact on the nation. We'll be right back.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on NTTV Nightly News. I'm Edison Stewart.
And I'm Alexandria Teeters.
Welcome back to Late Night at North Texas. Late Night at North Texas. Late Night at North Texas.
Color the world with peace and joy.
Tell me, Diva, what's the tea?
My Nisha drag is dumb.
The spirits have guided you to me.
Welcome back to Your Choice 2026. We are going to look at our current state numbers in just a moment, but there are some key Senate races here in Texas and in North Carolina, both states that will also have a major impact on the nation.
NTTV political polls anchor George Swoboda and a team of NTTV producers have been following those races from our newsroom. George, fill us in on what you're seeing.
Thanks, guys. So far, we're seeing a very close run in the GOP primary in District 23. Tony Gonzalez is leading Brandon Herrera by just 1% of the vote. When we move on to District 30, we see that Frederick Haynes III is leading by about 60% in the Democratic Party. In the GOP primary, we're not seeing a whole lot of votes trickling in, which is to be expected due to Jasmine Crockett's former holding of that office. We also have to keep in mind that Crockett endorsed Frederick Haynes III upon his launch of his campaign. When we move over to District 33, we see that there aren't any Democratic votes coming in yet, which that may take a while due to some confusion. But we are seeing some GOP votes roll in. So far, Patrick Gillespie is winning by about 13%, although it is too early to tell right now. If we look at the Senate, so far in the GOP primary, we're seeing incumbent John Cornyn take home the victory against Ken Paxton and Wesley Hunt. Looking at the Democratic primary, we're seeing James Tallarico jump up, but just a few minutes ago, Jasmine Crockett was in the lead, so it's really too early to tell. That's all I have for you guys right now. Back to you.
Thanks, George. Let's look at some of the latest vote totals in the congressional races impacting Denton and other parts of North Texas.
First, House District 26. It covers parts of Denton, Wise, and Cook counties, but no longer includes the city of Denton. In Republican race, incumbent Congressman Brandon Gill has about 41,000 votes and 91.1% of the vote, whereas his challenger Robert Chick presents about 8.9% of the vote and 4,000 votes overall.
That's right, and on the Democratic side of this race, Ernest Lindenberger and Steve Shook are running. Lindenberger has about, we're seeing a little bit more than 50%, and Shook has just under that. So where is the city of Denton? It was moved by the Texas legislature last year into a different district. The city is now a part of U.S. House District 13, which is represented by Congressman and former White House doctor Ronnie Jackson. He's facing a primary challenge from Chastity Wedgeworth and is winning easily. Mark Nair is the only Democrat running in this race, so that will be on the November ballot.
All 435 U.S. House seats will be up for grabs in November. In Texas, that means 38 total seats of the House of Representatives, 26 Republican and 12 Democrat.
In tonight's primary, Texas voters are choosing who will be the actual nominee in November. In other words, whoever wins this primary will go to the November election representing their party.
But for many Texans, this primary, it looks like the ballot is a little bit different from past elections, and redistricting plays a big role.
NTTV's Edison Stewart is back in the studio to tell us more. Edison?
Thanks, guys. Redistricting is more than just drawing lines on a map. It's shaping who can vote, who runs, and potentially which party has an advantage in this year's Texas primaries.
Texas tonight, voters are casting their ballots, and behind the scenes, redistricting is shaping exactly who they get to vote for. Redistricting is the process of redrawing political district lines every 10 years after the census. These lines decide which neighborhoods are grouped together and which candidates appear on the ballot.
We have 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, and so we need to decide what are the geographic locations that will constitute those districts. And so it determines for people what district that they live in, and therefore who they're represented by, who they get to vote for.
Earlier this year, Texas lawmakers moved to redraw congressional maps. Courts blocked parts of the plan over voting right concerns, while some changes remain in effect. These shifts affect how candidates campaign and could mean new choices for polling places for voters.
Today we're voting in primaries, right? So we're really going to see the effects of certain districts becoming either more red or blue in November. So we'll see how that sort of unfolds in the next couple of months.
Tonight, those lines on the map could decide which candidates move forward to November and how Texas politics will be shaped for the next decade.
Redistricting may sound complicated, but its impact is clear tonight. Every vote matters, and tonight, those new district lines may just make all the difference. That's all I have. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Edison. Now let's go back to Studio A and our panel for their insights into the impact of redistricting. Here and on a national level, Annie.
Thanks, Aaron. Redistricting for some people also means gerrymandering, essentially changing political voting lines to favor one party over another. And it is not new to American politics. But how does this actually impact voters and how the government operates? Dr. King, let's start with your thoughts on this.
So how we reapportion the district lines is absolutely critical for everything that you are seeing going on here tonight, and it is really what brings about the kind of margin of victory that you have. And in 2019, the Supreme Court altered some of the rules of the game and made it much easier to be able to gerrymander. What you're seeing here is unprecedented as we look back in time, this idea of redrawing the lines in between the census.
You know, it's, as I was just explaining, telling Dr. King before we came on, what's kind of surprising about that is that there really is no pretense of doing this for any other reason than President Trump said, I want you to redraw these lines so I can get more Republicans elected to the House. And you know what we've seen in response is also kind of surprising. I think it probably surprised the president as well and some Republicans, is that Democratic states like California and Virginia have decided to fight back and basically do this exact same thing for themselves to kind of counterbalance what Texas has done. And so this has set off a huge chain reaction, which is just, it doesn't just upend our election here in Texas, it really will make the entirety of November very interesting when it comes to which party will end up controlling the U.S. House of Representatives.
Sorry, I was going to add in another thing, that it really is also the extent to which the Supreme Court has backed this and they've legitimized it. So I think the court has to also be held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like no holds barred now. You know, if you can, whatever power you can grab it, right? Well, and one interesting thing, you know, I'm not sure if this is going to work the way that it was intended. You know, just to, you know, as an anecdotal evidence, you know, I live in Tarrant County. We just had a special state Senate election that was won by a Democrat. And that's a district that President Trump won by 17 points just 2 years ago. And now a Democrat won it by 14. That's a 31-point swing. And so if other districts swing that way, you know, there are certainly fears among Republicans that the border counties that are, you know, certainly a lot of Hispanic voters don't like what they're seeing right now. They may swing back, and it could end up backfiring for the GOP.
Yes, sorry. And you have to remember that in Texas, independents are not just like some kind of purple blob in the middle. Those independents are very issue specific. And if you're not paying attention as you redraw those lines, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till November to see, but we're getting a little insight tonight. It's very interesting.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Maddie, Aaron, back to y'all.
Thanks, Annie. When we come back, we have a question for you. What really drives people to vote? And we have some answers.
And there's another big race on the primary ballot. The spot in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is setting his sights on the 4th term in office. We'll have the details on that coming up. Don't go away.
Don't get your hopes up.
Is that it?
That's it.
Nothing can stop me now!
Yeah.
Craving something fresh, flavorful, and made just for you?
Look no further than Avesta, your go-to destination for a delicious, full-service dining experience. Dive into our customizable omelets, expertly crafted by our talented cook Jonathan, who guarantees every bite is perfection. All our dishes are handmade, prepared with only the freshest ingredients. Explore our assembly line where you can choose from any of our globally inspired dishes or customize your plate. It's that easy. And let's not forget dessert. Indulge your sweet tooth with treats from Clark Bakery. With convenient payment methods including card or flex, it's the perfect dining spot for any occasion. Quench your thirst with our wide selection of drinks. Just hand your drinking card to our friendly waiter, and they'll bring your beverage of choice right to your table. When you're done savoring every last bite, our attentive staff will whisk away your tray. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance as you dine in, or use our takeout option for a meal on the go. Avesta.
Back to the Your Choice 2026. The highest office in Texas on both parties on the primary ballots tonight. Republicans are hoping to continue a long run of holding onto power, while Democrats continue to search for a candidate who could break that streak. Let's start with the Republican ticket. Incumbent Governor Greg Abbott is dominated the GOP primary as expected at almost 83%. There are 10 challengers on the primary ballot, but none of them are a serious threat to unseat Abbott.
On the other side of the aisle, State Representative Gina Hinojosa has consistently been polling at the top of the Democratic primary for governor. She's one of 8 Democrats on the ballot. Hinojosa is currently at 61.9% of the vote, followed by Chris Bell. He is dramatically lower. He's at 11.3% of those votes. Greg Abbott is hoping to do something no one has ever been done before, and that's serve 4 terms as Texas governor. He took office in 2015 after a lengthy run as state attorney general in the last decade. Abbott has pushed through a number of conservative priorities, including private school vouchers, tax cuts, and border wall construction. He's also overseen responses to numerous disasters such as Hurricane Harvey, the 2021 winter storm, and last year's devastating flood in Kerrville. Abbott has won the previous 3 governors' races by double-digit margins and has been helped by the tens of millions of dollars he's been able to collect in campaign donations. If he wins in November and serves out his full 4-year term, he would break Rick Perry's record for longest-serving governor of Texas. The last Democrat to win a race for governor in Texas was Ann Richards in 1990.
Now, when you vote, regardless of who it might be, you may have made a choice, whether consciously or not. Although voting in the primaries is often seen as not important compared to the November elections, it's actually very important. If you voted in this primary, you actually helped choose the person that will be on the November ballot. But how did you make that decision? To learn more on what goes through people's minds when they vote, NTTV reporter Isabel Smith has taken a look at the voter brain. Isabel?
Thanks, Maddie. You are absolutely right. The voter mind is an unsolved mystery. However, I found that many voters make a choice before they even start to think about candidates.
To exercise my right to vote.
It needs to be a lot more done for the people and not for just the corporations.
I believe it's time for change.
Voting. Some call it a privilege, others a civic responsibility. And as Texas gets closer and closer to the big election in November, many people are conflicted about who and even why they should vote in the first place.
I think some people are scared. I think some people feel like their personal rights are being threatened or taken away.
That was Bonnie Moore, founder and CEO of voter education nonprofit North Texas Votes. But before doing any official research, Bonnie says that voter views are already being shaped.
People are listening to social media, listening to what's happening on TV, and reading newspapers and Google searching.
And many North Texas voters say that research is what led them to make their choice.
I guess I've seen a little bit more impact of politics in my life and in the lives of the people in my community maybe than I have before, or I'm a little bit more aware potentially of those issues, and so I decided that was something important for me to do.
And on every side of the political spectrum, voters say that the worst choice you can make not going out to vote at all.
Because change doesn't happen if we just sit there and let things continue to happen the way they've been.
That's my biggest thing, is just be an educated voter, and I think that takes away the fear of, oh, I don't want to make the wrong decision. There is no wrong decision. The only wrong decision is if you don't vote, because you haven't used your voice.
Voting ended at 7 p.m., but you will all be thinking about voting again in just a few months. And how you make that decision will once again be a system of choices, both logical and emotional. Maddie and Aaron, back to you.
Thanks, Isabel. Aaron, what is going through your mind when you go to vote?
Well, honestly, I feel a sense of pride in being able to exercise my civic duty.
Me too, Aaron. Let's see how the residents of Texas are exercising their civic duty in the Bellwether counties. Ladies?
Thanks, guys. We're going to take a look at the Democratic race first, and voters have been busy. At the top here in North Texas, we do see James Tallarico taking a lead in Collin County. Here in Denton County, he is also taking the lead. This is what the Democratic vote is showing. James Tallarico is taking the lead at about 31,000 votes. Crockett is not too far behind at 25,605. We also have to take into account that voting is not over yet, so these numbers are not concrete. Now in Dallas, Crockett's home county, Tallarico is holding a good amount of the votes in percent to the vote count of Crockett. However, we do not have those numbers in since they have stayed open until 9 p.m.
We're going to go ahead and move west. We see that in Tarrant County. It looks like that Crockett is taking that lead at 70,067 votes in Tallarico, and Tallarico is at 54,150 votes. All right, and we're going to go ahead and move into Collin County. The numbers, again, Crockett is, it looks like Crockett is taking that lead at 37,200 votes, and Tallarico at 27,611 votes. All right, we're going to go ahead and head south.
We see Bexar County shows Tallarico as unreported so far. However, it is his home county, so he's definitely hoping to secure those votes.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move into Travis County, where the state capital, Austin, is located. All right, Tallarico is holding that percent at 31,989 votes, and Crockett is holding that at 103,985 votes. All right, finally taking a look at the Democratic votes in Harris County, home to Houston. James Tallarico has 97,020 votes, and Crockett has 114,000 votes and 251 votes.
In our next segment, we will break down the Republican vote as it is coming into these key counties.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with our NTTV reporters at various live events for both parties. Let's begin with Zaria Holman at the Crockett Watch Party. What's the atmosphere like over there?
Don't have us both in frame at the same time right now. I'm on right now? Thank you, I'm here. And the energy right here is super, super exciting. And this ain't a watch party, this is a party. And the Democrats have showed up in numbers. I actually met my good friend right here. This is Jeremy Sutka, and he is the Collin County Democratic chair. Jeremy, what does it mean for Democrats to show up in numbers like this in a Republican-dominated area?
Yes, this county has historically been a red county, but with the demographic growth, we gain 100,000 voters every 4 years, and a lot of those new voters are Democrats, and they're coming here and they're realizing that to actually change the way this county works, they have to get out and vote. So we see, about 100 people here, just coming out after a long day of working at polls or elections and voting and getting ready for November.
It's an incredible turnout. So what are the results of tonight? What does that mean for November as the Democratic race is here today?
Yeah, so as we make it a habit to go out and vote, we are hoping that this continues on, and 8 months from now they come back out and they vote and they vote and they change this county, change the state, because when Collin County goes blue, the whole state's going to go blue, and when Texas goes blue, it's going to send shockwaves through the nation.
I know I only had 2 questions for you, but I just have to ask, what's your feeling right now? Are you excited, or what are you feeling?
I'm excited. The race at the top of the ticket's really close right now. I really don't know where it's going to go. I can't wait to see where it goes and get to work.
Well, I appreciate that, man, and I'm excited too. You heard it here from Jeremy Sutka, and I'm sending it back to Melanie Garcia, who is with the Democrats in the Denton County. Melanie?
We're going to bring it back here into the studio. We've been following that Ken Paxton watch party, and that Attorney General race is intense. He may be succeeded as Attorney General. We'll have details after this.
And Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is seeking a 4th term in one of the most important roles in Texas government. We have the latest. Stay with us.
Warned them that this was dangerous, but did they listen? No!
I've been having these dreams.
Welcome in.
This is part of the process, Eric. I only want what is best for you.
You want me to go on and on with the program until there's nothing left of me.
We are one now. Our goals are the same.
No, they're not.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DatQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DatQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DatQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
Evil lies here.
Go, 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 go!
Get that, get that! Be gone, evil spirit!
Welcome back to Your Choice 2026. Ken Paxton has served 3 terms as Texas Attorney General, but has opted to run for U.S. Senate rather than seek a 4th term. The race is to replace him, and it has become one of the most heated races in the state.
There are 4 Republican candidates, and none of them are expected to get enough votes tonight to avoid a runoff in May. In the running are Congressman Chip Roy, State Senators Joan Huffman and Mays Middleton, and Aaron Reitz, who previously served as one of Paxton's deputies.
In the Democratic Party, attorneys Joe Jaworski and Tony Box are running, along with State Senator Nathan Johnson.
Let's get to the latest numbers in this race. On the Republican side, Mays Middleton is leading right now at about 44.3%. As we said, this race may go on to a runoff because of those numbers. Chip Roy is following pretty closely behind at about 20%. On the Democratic side, Nathan Johnson is taking the lead at 47%, and the Democrat side may go into a runoff as well, with Joe Jaworski following in a very similar place at 28.8% currently.
The second highest office in Texas, also on the 2026 primary ballot, like Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is also seeking a 4th term in office. Texas stands apart from many other states because the Lieutenant Governor plays a key role in passing legislation. Patrick serves as president of the Texas Senate and has a strong influence on whether bills pass or fail. Patrick is easily defeating his 3 Republican primary challengers tonight at 85.7%. The Democratic race for Lieutenant Governor is between State Representative Vicki Goodwin, Marcos Velez, and Courtney Head.
Maddie, now that we've talked about these races, let's check back with George Svoboda for other key race updates.
George is in the newsroom now. What are you seeing up there, George? Anything state or nationally?
Thanks, guys. So like I said earlier, we are mainly focusing on congressional races across Texas right now. As you see in District 23, we're seeing Tony Gonzalez lead his primary contender, Brandon Herrera, by only 1%, but that's only with 6.8% of votes in. Now, we have to keep in mind that last time these two ran against each other, Herrera only lost by about 400 votes. If we move on to look at the Democrats, we're going to see Katie Padilla-Stout is now leading. Now, it's a change up from the last time I saw you. Santos Limon was the one leading then, but once again, only 4% of the votes are in. It's still a toss-up between the two candidates, and we have to keep in mind this district, it's looking like it's going to remain a GOP stronghold. It's very unlikely a Democrat will be able to win in the general election in November. Now, if we move on to District 30, we're seeing GOP candidate Everett Jackson. He's still in the lead. He's at about 12%, which is roughly the same as last time you were here. Now, here we're seeing more of a easy prediction with who's going to win this primary. We're seeing about 46% of expected votes in, but something could change. We don't know yet. Now, if we move on to the Democrats, Frederick Haynes III, he's still dominating this race. We have to keep in mind this is Congresswoman Crockett's former district, and she endorsed Frederick Haynes. We also have to keep in mind he is a very prominent pastor in the district. He's a well-known figure. Just behind him is Barbara Caraway. It's not a change from before. Moving on to District 33, we're still seeing Patrick Gillespie in the lead with 43.1% of the votes in. He's leading by about 13% or 700 votes, but this is another one of those districts. This time it's going to be a Democratic stronghold. It is super unlikely in the November election that a GOP candidate will be able to defeat the Democratic candidate. Now let's take a look at those Democratic candidates. We're still not seeing any votes in for them, but we have to keep in mind Julie Johnson here, she's the incumbent and she's very popular in her district. Colin Allred, he was the congressman for this district before Julie Johnson took over. We have to keep in mind that Allred has had some difficulty winning in the past. He lost his 2024 Senate race against Ted Cruz. It's really, with this one, completely up in the air who will win. Moving on to the Senate, we're seeing that GOP Senator John Cornyn, the incumbent, he's still beating out Ken Paxton. He's winning by about 2% of the vote, 2.5%. But there's only 40% counted so far. If we move on to the Democratic Party, we are still seeing a super close race between Tallarico and Crockett. He's only beating her out by about 6%. But we're seeing that it could change at any moment. We have to keep in mind Crockett is very, very popular in North Texas. Tallarico, he's more popular in rural areas in Austin. Moving on to North Carolina, we're still seeing Roy Cooper. He's got 92% of the vote for the Democrats, and Michael Whatley, as predicted, he's dominating the Republican Party. That's all I have for you guys. Back to you at the desk.
In a primary election, being seen can make or break a campaign, and unlike general elections, candidates must compete within their own party. So how they're viewed is crucial. Many have made big investments in digital strategy, including viral short-form videos and social media ads aimed to target specific voter groups. Streaming platforms and social media apps are now just as critical as traditional TV ads. In many cases, younger voters are more likely to see a political ad on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube than on television news. But the rise of digital campaigning also brings challenges. Experts warn that misinformation, selectively edited clips, and even AI-generated political content are becoming more common during the primary season, making it harder for votes to separate fact from fiction.
Across Texas, the airwaves are saturated with campaign ads, making this the most expensive and aggressive primary season in recent history. Edison Stewart rejoins us with a closer look at political advertising statewide. Edison?
Thanks, Maddie. This year's primary season included one of the most expensive ad battles in state history. In the U.S. Senate primaries alone, candidates and outside groups spent more than $110 million on TV and digital ads, the highest amount ever for a Senate primary, according to ad tracking reports. On the Republican side, Senator John Cornyn and groups supporting him spent more than $67 million as they faced Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt. Many of the ads focused on border security and who is a stronger conservative. On the Democratic side, State Representative James Tallarico spent about $15.3 million on ads compared to about $4.3 million for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, not counting outside support. Tonight, voters decide which messages broke through and which candidates will move on to November. But with a runoff likely in the Republican Senate race, we can expect nearly 3 more months of attack ads and millions more spent to get them on the air. Let's head over to Studio A with Annie Tomlin and our panel for their thoughts. Annie?
Thanks, Edison. Panel, what about those political ads? Dr. King, let's begin with you. What do you think about that?
It seems like particularly this year, those ads are off the hook. I mean, the reality is when you see those ads, we think of negative ads. And while people say they don't like negative ads, the public opinions polls show that in focus groups, they find negative ads persuasive and they are more likely to change minds. So especially when we have such hotly contested races, not just 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you have to figure out some way to distinguish yourself. And we were talking earlier about Hunt and how he had been out front with ads, and it's not playing out well tonight for him.
Yeah, he needed to get that name recognition long ago just to have any kind of chance, and it's just not connecting tonight. You know, as far as that race, we've seen the Republican Party has spent $70 million to try to prop up John Cornyn to help him survive because, you know, the powers that be in the Republican Party believe that he stands a better chance of winning in the general election than Ken Paxton, who's of course had some issues. Yeah. He's been indicted, he's been impeached, he's being divorced by his wife on biblical grounds, and so there's some concern. You know, that's why we're seeing just a flood of ads in this race. Yeah. Just trying to get Cornyn across the finish line, and you know, so far tonight it's, you know, we'll see. You know, he's still alive, but we got a long ways to go on that front.
And one of the things that Texas is up against is that we have one of the toughest media markets out there, not only because of our geographic space, but because of our urban to rural backdrop. And so you had spoken earlier about this issue of social media versus regular news stream cycles. One of the advantages of using social media is that it winds up not necessarily costing you as much. But for the traditional party, both Democrat and Republican, they rely on that older kind of news media outlet model. What will be interesting to see is by the time we get to 2028 and the 2032 election cycle, whether some of that has evaporated.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the really fun thing to watch in this race, you're thinking about the Democratic race, we've been talking a lot about the Republicans. You know, it's not just ads, it's not just social media, it's about kind of doing whatever you can do to get voters' attention. And certainly we've saw for Representative Tallarico, he saw some earned media in the last couple of weeks that you really, I mean, money just cannot buy. He went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and did a full interview just like you would expect. And then that night, Stephen Colbert came on the air and said, hey, guess what? I was supposed to interview James Tallarico on this very show. And the network is not letting me because it's worried about FCC rules and equal time. And well, if you're a Democrat who is, you know, motivated by the actions of the Trump administration, you're going to hear that and say, oh, there's a Democrat in Texas being censored by the Trump administration. I'm very interested in that. And well, that's worked out so far pretty well for James Tallarico. He earned $2.5 million in campaign contributions just in 24 hours after that incident. And that video, you know, the interview ended up getting posted to YouTube. It's been viewed over 9 million times. And so a lot of people who maybe didn't know who James Tallarico was or didn't know very much about him certainly learned a lot based on that little kind of earned media thing. There was no advertising dollars spent, you know, there's no social media posts that had to be crafted, but all of a sudden, you know, big time attention, a lot of eyes on James Tallarico that weren't there before.
I think one of the things that's important is to remember to think about candidate framing, and that's going to be one of the things if and when we get to runoffs, especially for the Republicans. You didn't see the kind of hatred and acrimony out of Tallarico and Crockett that you might have seen in some other races that were that close, and you didn't see it in the Al Green race down south of us. And that's not really, you know, if you look at the polls coming in, Green is not doing as well as people would have thought. And yet, that being the case, the Democrats are trying to set a different tone. I have never seen such ugly knife fighting by the Republican Party in 37 years of being inside this state.
It's shocking to see some of the ads, the ads, because listen, somebody is going to win this primary in the Republican Party. And so we're either going to have John Cornyn, who has been branded rhino, Republican name only, disloyal, or we're going to have Ken Paxton, who's, there are ads out there saying he's not just corrupt, he's weird. And they're going to have to, if Paxton ends up being the nominee, they're going to have to come back from that and say, hey, this guy that we called corrupt and weird, please vote for him.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. King and Mr. Mosley, for your guys' help and your guys' time today. Maddie, Aaron, back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you, panel. Our coverage continues after the break.
That's right, Maddie. When we come back, a last look at key votes in the Republican race in our Bellwether counties and final numbers. Stay with us.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike is gone.
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Like scary movies? What's your favorite scary movie?
Isn't this cat so lovely? Let's take a look at this cute kitty cat take on the world.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Cynthia Mendoza for NCTV Nightly News.
And I'm Zach White. Be sure to tune in next week at noon and 6 p.m. respectively. Cynthia, you got any pets waiting for you at home?
Oh yes, I actually have a fish tank that I take care of.
Welcome back as we wrap up our coverage of Your Choice 2026.
Let's go to our Bellwether counties to see how the GOP race for Senate is shaping up. Alexandria and Julianne.
All right, thanks guys. Let's go ahead and go straight into the Republican Senate race beginning here in North Texas. All right, here in Denton County, this is what the GOP vote is showing. All right, it actually looks like, right now we have Cornyn at 29,779 votes, Paxton at 27,000 votes, 814 votes, and Hunt at 8,598 votes. All right, now in Dallas County, this is what the votes are showing. Cornyn again at 34,683 votes, Paxton at 20,630 votes, and Hunt at 8,049 votes. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and move west. We see that in the Republican stronghold of Tarrant County, John Cornyn is at 44,282 votes. Paxton is at 34,840 votes, and Hunt is at 12,205 votes. And in Collin County, the numbers look like this. Cornyn is at 29,779 votes. Paxton is at 27,000 votes, 814 votes, and Hunt is at 8,598 votes.
All right, heading south down to Bexar County, it's showing John Cornyn at 44,282. We have Paxton at 34,840 and Hunt at 12,205 votes. And down in Travis County, where the state capital, Austin, is located, John Cornyn is sitting at, oh, looks like we don't have those votes in yet. Still waiting on those down in Travis County.
But we're going to go ahead and finally look at the Republican votes in Harris County. Home to Houston, John Cornyn is at 47,147 votes. Paxton is at 47,065 votes. And Hunt is at 22,207 votes.
Now remember, not all votes are in, so these numbers will change.
But that's all for us tonight. Back to you two, Aaron and Maddie.
Thank you, Alex and Julianne. Now let's look at our last numbers. Those GOP Senate primary numbers that Alexandria and Julianne just showed us were county specific. So now we're going to take a look at it across the state. John Cornyn is leading currently at 43%. He has 444,498 votes across the state. Ken Paxton is trailing close behind at 40%, and he has 417,108. Wesley Hunt is falling far behind these two gentlemen at 13.2%. Wesley Hunt currently holds 136,657 votes for the state.
For the Democrats, the race is looking like this. State Representative James Tallarico is looking at 53% of the votes with over 500,000 votes. And then we have Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett holding 45.9% of the votes at almost 5,000 as well. Not quite there yet.
And as we mentioned, these numbers are going to change as the night goes on and the rest of the precincts report in.
NTTV will have a full recap at noon and at 6 p.m. tomorrow on the Nightly News. Until then, thank you so much for watching.
And thank you to all of the NTTV staff, volunteers and students and faculty who have helped make this broadcast possible. Good night.
Good night.